go down to, for everybody that's here from DHS and juvenile, we'll jump down to item 5. Discussion, review, and possible action regarding possible transfer of county-owned property located at 5909 North Glasson. That's the Pauline Myers Shelter to the state of Oklahoma. So, Stacy, Gretchen.
Well, I'd received the email, I think you received it at the last meeting, where the OMES said they did not have any property to trade. And that's kind of where that was left, and I haven't received any other information since then.
Oddly enough, he didn't have any purview over the recommendations that we had because they were all ODOT properties. Correct. The majority.
Well, I wasn't here at the meeting.
Okay. All right. Well, we asked you to inquire about the possible swap. From my perspective, that pretty much takes care of any kind of transfer. I'm speaking for me personally. I don't know about you.
I don't know where we go from here.
Well,
I would love, it'd be cleanest if we could just swap it for another piece of property, but if they're telling us that that's not possible, I wonder if we've exhausted that fully other than just asking them. You know, Dan and Underling kind of just say, no, we don't have anything. I mean, with the way I understand state property, it's all under OMBS, whether it's ODOT, DHS, DOC, whomever, because it's now, if somebody sells a piece of property, the money has to go to OMBS, regardless of what agency it's under. So I would think they would have purview, and I don't know if we push that and climb the ladder, or if that's something the DHS would do, or if we just move on and look at other measures. Gretchen's got.
well,
I don't know the answer.
I'm not inclined to give away something for nothing, no matter how good the cause is. And at this point, folks. Hi, Randy. Good morning.
Sure.
Here's discussing DHS, OMBS, maybe we can shed some light on OMBS.
So I guess, Randy, where we're at, and just so you know, you were here, you saw the letter. Apparently there's no property available for swap or trade, other than what ODOT or the Land Commission might have. And so my view on this is I think that it pretty much ends the talks of giving the property away. My personal opinion is you don't give something away for nothing, no matter the cost. And so we had previously recommended a lease, which DHS wanted to make some changes to. And now that's another item on here that they're all lumped together. So if Gretchen will indulge me, I'm pretty much where we're at, in that we made a recommendation, or voted to make a recommendation to the board regarding the lease, and that's pretty much where I'm at right now. So, works for me.
What's the lease term? 20 years?
It's 25, I believe.
25?
Isn't that right, Gretchen?
Yeah, but you have all those remaining issues as to the maintenance
Well-
who's gonna bear the cost?
Actually, we don't, because we had voted to make a recommendation to the board, it just hasn't appeared on their agenda yet. We kind of gave DHS the courtesy of coming back to us with what their objections were, but this group had previously approved.
I see. So are you saying that it's the lease that you all had voted to approve, and that's it? I see.
Do we need-
I just wanted to clarify for you
Yeah,
where you were going.
So can you elaborate on what lease you're gonna take to the commission and,
the very first one we sent you.
When was that?
Oh, it's been a long time.
A long time.
It's the one that I think that it substitutes been hyperlinked,
Correct.
but it was the first one hyperlinked months ago.
And in that lease, DHS is fully responsible for maintenance of the facility?
That's correct.
Is that what it?
Mhm. And we're running into the deadlines that the donor set. I don't want to be responsible for holding that up any longer than it's already been held up. And I think if we just put that on, then the commissioners can decide.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
If I may, I think the parties already concluded that it wasn't workable for DHS. So I'm a little confused as to why we're moving this lease forward when one party is not able to agree to it.
Well, two parts. At least from my perspective, what DHS offered as a counter is unacceptable to me. I don't think I can recommend that to my boss. And the other part is, if we just put on what we had previously approved to make as a recommendation, then it gets out of here and it gets into the decision maker's hands and they can fight it out up there.
So is it possible to put two options before the decision maker's hands, and the other option being, I understand and I respect the fact that your opinion is that you shouldn't give something away without getting something in return, but is it possible to place that second option with the reversionary clause before the Board of County Commissioners without a recommendation by you that this is something that they should do?
Oh, that's polarized. That's an option to convey versus a lease, is what she's talking about now.
Right, she would like something under item 5, it sounds like, with some type of reversionary clause language, so the board could have a lease option or a giveaway option with, that's what you're talking about, right?
I'm throwing it out there if
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
possible.
I
Let me ask a question, if I may,
Go ahead.
but I don't want to interrupt you.
No.
Okay, my understanding was, we were at the point before we started talking about actually granting ownership of the property where we were addressing those maintenance issues in the lease. And one of the issues was the replacement of air conditioning units, correct? Which my understanding was we had reached an agreement that those were going to be replaced, correct?
We were going to come up with donor funds to
Okay.
replace those.
And then one of the provisions that DHS countered with was the $160,000 maximum per year for maintenance, correct? That wasn't us, that was DHS.
That was the,
Okay.
that's correct.
All right,
Maintenance and operations.
okay. Okay, and the value of the new units on the facility,
I don't know if that's been vetted out, Randy.
do we have an idea of?
We
They're not
don't have
cheap.
that number with us. They were valued at somewhere around 200,000.
Okay,
And then a new roof.
And a roof, I could be, yeah.
okay,
So I mean, basically what it boiled down to was about $500,000 in improvements with the roof and the rooftop units.
I'll throw a wrench into that. Logistically.
I'm used to it.
Yeah. Logistically, what you have is, I think, still a donor who's agreeable to provide, I forget the exact dollar amount, but it would not include this additional $500,000. So you're looking at this group finding the additional $500,000 for the roof and the HVAC system, because it's not coming from the original donor. So you potentially are looking at more delays and more unknowns, because why would you initiate this project unless you had all the funds lined up?
My
Then,
understanding,
if I may, I think we've been through this to the extent, it's difficult to pinpoint the exact dollar amount of what we have going on, because we haven't gotten any bids, or we haven't gotten quotes on it. However, we have additional donors that are willing to come to the table.
my understanding is the only funds that DHS is going to have to come up with, and again, I could be totally off on this, was the $160 per year.
Right.
That's right.
But the way I envisioned this coming forward to the Board of County Commissioners was wrapped up. Currently, we have a donor
Okay.
and then the lease, and they need to go hand in hand. If you're going to incur an additional $500,000, I think in order to protect the county, you would need to wrap that additional money up as well and present it to the board and not say, oh, it's coming, it's coming. Because if it doesn't come, then you have potentially a project that can't be completed, because the county doesn't have $500,000 on it.
No, right, it's a condition of the lease agreement is what you're saying, is that we would...
No, it's
Why
a
not?
separate, it would need to be a separate.
There's an agreement with the donor
Right.
that would need to be approved by the board in order to get the 1.5 roughly, and then there would need to be a separate agreement to get the additional 500 in order for the county to move forward. Because if we do the lease, whether it's DHS's terms or our terms, the county is responsible for the project construction, and everything would go through our processes, and we have to have the money on hand in order to let the contracts.
May I ask, we're discussing this, I mean, are we even going to get to an agreement on the 160 lease? I mean, I think that's the bottom line here. There's no sense in spending any time on this if we're not going to get past the 160 lease. And if we're not going to get past the $160,000 on lease, then it makes no sense to me to advance this to the Board of County Commissioners. Because all that does is politically change that back on DHS as being the ones apparently not moving this project forward. That's the way I see this. And I don't know if that's your intent, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I may be the chairman simply because I read off there are two other people here that have a vote, and I can be outvoted at any time. So,
Absolutely.
okay, I've given you my personal feelings. I don't believe that we have delayed this at all. We have worked with you guys. We've given you the courtesy of offering language. No, you don't have to call me Mr. Chairman. I'm Joe. I mean, my feeling is that the county doesn't, I can't recommend to my boss that we would give away an asset for nothing. If there's something that you all, DHS, can do, that's the state, it's not the county. The state can work together to try to figure out how to come up with something that we can potentially swap. I think we would all be open to that, but but from my perspective, we're not asking DHS and the lease that was approved by this group to do anything that they've not done for almost 30 years.
So, Joe, what would be the harm in this board going to the commissioners and saying, this is what DHS is or isn't offering? They would like this building deeded over and they have nothing to offer. We don't recommend it, but they would like you to make a decision.
There are two people here who could make that motion and could prove it. I'm not going to make the motion.
I have a question. At the one meeting I wasn't at, was that Friday special meeting during spring break, and I was trying to hear on the phone about it. In fact, not all of you guys were here. What I had heard from that meeting is there was conversation, if the swap didn't work, a reversionary clause would be considered. Can anybody, I tried to find the minutes online, can anybody remind me who was here what that conversation sounded like on March 17th?
On March 17th?
Yes, it was Friday, March 17th.
For a minute.
are the meetings recorded?
Yeah, they are.
Okay, so I wasn't here, so I'm curious what that conversation sounded like.
I think I was here.
I think you were, but I don't know.
As I recall, that was amongst a number of different options that was discussed, but there was never any action taken, if I recall correctly. And my memory's
I
not great.
understand that, I just wondered what the conversation sounded like. Was it?
Talk of a reversionary clause, that if the shelter was transformed to the intended purpose and DHS never did quit using it for that purpose, that it would revert back to the county.
Okay.
But I also thought that there was some things that was problematic for DHS, if that could have been a later meeting.
Well, it was mentioned at the meeting from what I heard, but it was quickly determined that it wouldn't be a problem. So I think what Sarah mentioned, this $160,000 we were getting into fair market value and what expenses go in, that's a time bomb. There is no way that's going to work. So I would think that the best option is to go to the big board and propose the reversionary possibility, and let's just be done. You know, let's find out one way or the other. You're not getting nothing for something. You're getting a beautiful redone building that, if it ever is not used for its intended purposes, you then have a great building to use for something else. But we can't go week after week running after more numbers and ideas. We're ready to move one way or the other. And I mean, with no disrespect, this was a new process for me. I'm just a community member, but we've done enough. We really have. You guys have too. You've entertained us every week. So it seems like we should just go pursue the reversionary option, and if that doesn't work, we're done.
Is there any other discussion on item 5?
What are the obstacles that are keeping us from a long-term lease as opposed to actual transfer of ownership with a reversionary clause?
The maintenance cost.
That's it.
I think the bottom line on this is DHS does not feel comfortable putting,
Yes.
you know, I'm assuming full responsibility for a building that they don't own. And with the budget issues that have come across.
But that's excuse me for just saying, that's the current terms and conditions that DHS is operating under in its current lease, correct?
That's correct.
It's vacant, and it's a vacant building.
The $168,000 or whatever it was based on an average of expenses.
But those expenses are controlled by whoever is operating that building. Whoever's operating the building controls, you know, how much AC is used, how much lights are used, and all of that. So by pushing those in at no cost. Hang on just a second.
Major system repairs.
No, the utilities and stuff are included in that as well, in that language.
Maintenance and operations.
Yes.
But the county would not be on the hook for any of that. It would be additional amounts
Over the 160.
over the one.
So the county could be on the hook.
Major.
No, it's the utilities and everything.
If we spent $155 on utilities, and that's when you get to the DSAR COLA.
Right, and then you get close to that 160, and then you get the county micromanaging the way DHS is doing their business, and that's not a good formula for success.
Right, that's not going to work.
Yeah, and I think that's been the concern of this board, and including that 160 language.
Randy, the other part of your question is making sure that we have an agreement with donor or donors for the additional money for the roof and the AC vents prior to starting. So we have one. So there are two.
Look, and again, speaking from the perspective of my commissioner, this is a worthwhile project and something that we want to see done. And I'm not prepared, he's not prepared to just say, well, we tried and that's it. I mean, what you're hearing, what I'm hearing, transfer of ownership to DHS is not likely to pass be recommended at this level and pass at the next level. A long-term lease, I think, was contemplated for, and again, I've only been here since January, but it seems like the long-term lease is what was contemplated from the get-go. It's what we had been working towards until the transfer thing kind of came up recently. I understand where DHS is coming from about ownership of the building and everything else. I mean, I was at the state level, I get that, I do. I just, again, you know, the county, we like our properties and want to hang on to them, and so I do believe there's a path forward with a long-term lease agreement. Now, if we can overcome these hurdles of maintenance, the amount for, not maintenance, I'm sorry, the repair of the things that need to be done, and then the M&O issue. Now, if you guys tell me that there's no way, I mean, that's absolutely not going to get done, then, I mean, I don't know how to go forward, but I think that we still have a narrow path forward if we can work those issues out. But, I mean, if we run into absolutely no way to overcome those, then, I mean, I don't know what to recommend, but, you know, we wish it would have worked out. But I'm not ready to give up on that yet, because, again, I believe there's usually a way that we just probably haven't thought ever worked yet.
As far as the transfer of property is concerned, the way I see this right now is you have a building sitting there that is of no value to you in its current layout. It's built to be a shelter, and that's all it's good for at this point. Now, if the county's willing to put a couple of $1 million into it, like our donors have agreed to, you can make that into a usable office building. But otherwise, that building's just going to sit there and require maintenance. And I don't see the value in, I guess what I'm trying to get at is the value to the county is of the avoidance of that maintenance with no return.
I mean, we could store records in it. I mean, we're paying $150,000 a year right now for the storage of our court records. I mean, the county needs space, you know, and so I get what you're saying, but at the same time, that's what our chairman is saying, is that it's worth more to us to keep that building than to just give it away and then maybe someday get it back when the state decides they don't need it anymore.
Okay.
So you have an alternative use?
I mean, that's just one that...
I can think of about 5 alternatives.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's just the one that came to the top of my head.
Well, legally,
We have to declare it surplus.
right, legally, for the county to even convey it, the board would have to make a finding that it's no longer needed for any other county purpose. If it could be, then they can't convey it.
Would we have to then auction it if we declare it surplus?
Well, no. You can't declare it surplus unless it's no longer needed for county purposes. You're telling me you can think of a county purpose. Joe just said he can think of 4 county purposes. That in and of itself prevents conveyance of any kind.
But if it, let's go down Randy's use it for storage, right? If it potentially could be used for storage, structurally it was sufficient, then we might have a hurdle transferring. If we said, oh, we're going to use it for storage, but it's not structurally sufficient, and we don't have another purpose, then I think we could get there. I mean, the best option forward is a lease. It's the lease that DHS currently has today with an additional, I think it's 5 years or 7 years added on. I mean, that's you want to be done? I can't tell you what the board will do, but that's the best way forward. I agree with Randy, there's possibilities for other ways forward, and I hope you guys, I've said this a million times, and I'll say it again, I think it's a very worthwhile project. However, that doesn't mean I take my county hat off and the duty that I have to the county and my boss, and just, I have to try to do both, and that's what I'm trying to do.
You know, what we've tried to do, you know, as the community person is I've tried to stay in the game with the county and the state. I mean, everyone believes it's a worthwhile project, it's up and running, it's fantastic for the kids that are receiving services, but it doesn't sound like there's a way forward, and I personally feel like we've spent enough time working with the county and the state. There's no blame in one place, but it's kind of enough. We need to move on. There's other land nearby that we're interested in, and we'll probably just do that. But I don't want to get started and then get a phone call in a month after we've bought some land. So I just want to make sure we don't need to keep coming to the meetings. I just think it's a great project. It's just not going to work in our current climate to use a county building with the DHS.
And everything that I understand, from my perspective, Jack, correct me if I'm wrong, but our administrator of finance has said that DHS is capable of committing $160,000 a year operations and/or maintenance for that facility going forward. I have not heard him say that there's any gray.
No.
There isn't.
So I don't think, and that's whether the roof and the HVAC units get replaced or not. That's for utilities, that's for security contracts, that's for, whatever it takes to operate that facility for the Family Tree Project. And I think they came up with that figure, like somebody said, based on an average of what the costs have been, but also thinking that $1.5 million is going to get put into it by private donors to upgrade the building. We would hope for less maintenance. We would hope there wouldn't be any, but you never know. The elevator, the elevators aren't going to be replaced. You just never know. So our leadership did not feel comfortable saying, well, we'll do all the maintenance because we don't know what could happen, and we don't have the money.
Right. So that kind of goes back to my initial question, I suppose, and that is, so what do we need to do? We've talked a lot about the obstacles and the hurdles that are in the way. What do we need to do to get the lease done? You're saying that DHS can commit to the $160 per year, right? Okay. And so what do we need to get done? Don't tell me what is standing in the way. I mean, so we just need to get additional funding for the replacement of HVAC and roof?
We have that. We just don't have it documented in the way you'd like to see it in a tidy package. That's not on you guys.
Okay. So we're talking about bifurcating that into two separate agreements, but they essentially have to take place simultaneously.
All right, but there was additional issues with a cap at $160,000 for a period of 25 years.
I understand.
With the rate of inflation.
I understand.
How that's going to dwindle quickly. And whether or not the county wanted to absorb any potential
so we would have to
costs, like she mentioned earlier.
So we'd have to overcome those disagreements in the lease term because there's no adjustment for inflation and things like that.
Inflation was never discussed with DHS. I don't know their position.
Yeah. Because, again, that it just makes sense that the value of the 160 is going to be a lot less 25 years from now, and we're going to have a building that's 25 years older, so it's just not going to go as far. Again, okay, I've got my attorney hat on now, okay, and not my county hat, perhaps, but, those terms can be worked out.
I think the fair market value or inflation is an easier term than what this gentleman is talking about, which is verify for me what you spent so that we know you've spent your 160 in justifiable ways so that the county is okay. That's really the rub as I see it.
Well, what I was discussing there was if we're at the 160 and above, the county has a fiduciary duty to make sure that county funds are being spent appropriately. Thus, we would need to verify that that 160 was spent appropriately for us to be able to come in and start spending money on the backside. And
I mean, that's really, I get it. I mean, that's really where the crux of the issue is, and it's not worth a lot of time in the other avenues. I think inflation, obviously,
Well, and I
should be
get,
agreed upon.
we don't want to be responsible for 80% of M&O, 20 years from now on the building, that they're burning through their 160 really quick, and then we're paying $400 a year or something like that. I mean, again, throwing out ridiculous.
And to go back to the lease that this group has at least said we would put before the board, that discussion, we've had that discussion. That discussion, DHS was present when we discussed inflationary and inflationary triggers, and the language that they sent back to us didn't include it. So DHS was aware that we had at least talked about it. They were here.
Well, I think it's this other issue that's the main.
Well, and I'm a budget guy, and looking at numbers, you need to plan as appropriately as possible, and when we have shrinking, well, not revenues, but when you compare it to cost of living, it seems like it's shrinking. The county struggles to be able to meet the needs that we need to meet on an annual basis. There's no way that the county can appropriately budget for and anticipate what an additional agency is doing in one of their buildings to be able to appropriately budget for that, and then it potentially puts the county in a situation where they're in debt, and we cannot go into debt as a county. We have to stay solvent year to year, and there's no way for us to be able to budget for unknown circumstances when we have no control over what's being operated in the building.
I get it, and that's why, I don't know the gentleman over there's name, but I know you're searching for a solution, but it just doesn't seem like there is one. And for our $1 million or $1.5 million, we can build a brand new building. The expenses, we're running the Chesapeake building right now. It's very inexpensive for us to run. So, we could use DHS's 160 in a whole lot of ways in a new building somewhere else. So I appreciate your stretching for a solution, but it's just kind of the juxtaposition of where the parties are.
And here's where I am on it. We've got a building that's right next door to the juvenile court. It does not appear, the juvenile court does not appear to be moving anytime soon. It's easy for the families to get right over to. We're having success with that in the Chesapeake building right across the street. One reason why we chose the Chesapeake building was for that purpose. In the event, this program to date has been very successful. We're serving how many families? I want to say 40 children, is that right? Around 40 children just in a few months that we've gotten up and running. The program appears to be successful, but God forbid, in the event it's not successful, we're still right next to the juvenile court, and the property can be used for other services to help the families. So that's, I can't let go of that for me, because it's an ideal location, and I feel it's a great opportunity for the county and the state.
After year 5, with the 1.7% inflationary adjustment.
Well, I mean, again, I negotiate deals for a living. That's part of one of the things that I do, and I just don't, that kind of sounds Trumpy. Yeah. Believe me, it's gonna be huge. It's gonna be huge.
Right, tremendous.
I guess I don't see value in just ending negotiations at this point. I still think that, now, again, if we propose that, Miles, and say, all right, we're gonna have to agree to some sort of percentage of increase, year 5, 6, or something like that, and DHS says no, then we say, okay, we're trying, but if you're just going to say no, you've got to transfer to us, or no, we're not going to do that, I mean, again, we can't. And I get it from their perspective too. I mean, the state is struggling every year, and they don't want to take on new liabilities and everything else. So, I don't know. I think there's value in continuing to negotiate, but I'm just...
Well, then you guys propose something, because it seems that everything that has come out of our mouths, it doesn't work, right? Their perspective is we're being hardline, or I'm being hardline. My perspective is they're being every bit as hardline as we are. Right? And so, there's another issue with the lease language that they sent over, too, and it's this hardship language, right? I mean, look at the state and the mess that they're in. DHS has a lease right now where they're currently responsible for everything in that building, and now they come to us and say, we gotta cap it at 160. Well, what's gonna happen next year when the budget hole is larger than it is this year, and they come back and they say, well, we can only do 100, right?
Yeah, we can't agree to that hardship language.
So the hardship language is an issue as well, even if we could come up with some inflationary, and I'm willing to try. But, I mean, I think one thing Sarah and I probably agree on is we're sitting here and we're spinning our wheels.
That was the other issue that came up, was that each year when they came back, there would be sort of a looking at the expenses. And if our donors were putting in $1.5 million, that each year there could be a step-off point, that would be a problem too.
And it just makes it more muddy. That's why I think what the county has been willing to do, you've got a donor that's graciously putting in an exorbitant, I shouldn't use the word exorbitant, a large amount of money for a great purpose. And that money is going to benefit DHS by DHS having new facilities to be able to operate in. Benefits the county to an extent. It updates a county building, although the county is not going to be hopefully ever using that building. Hopefully DHS stays in that building for its lease. So the county really doesn't receive any benefit from it. But the county is willing to extend the lease, Lee. What is there, 20 years left on the lease? Something like that. Extend out 5 years. So the county is willing to give. But then DHS comes on the back end and says, well, we're getting, and now we want to get some more via this $160,000 cap. When the county is just, I mean, we're moving as much as we can, but at the end of the day, it does get to a point to where people can't move anymore.
It benefits county.
Oh, I'm not saying, I don't mean it doesn't benefit Oklahoma County.
Right.
What I'm talking about is from a asset liability standpoint. That's what I'm talking about.
Mr. Joe.
Mr. Joe. I like that.
So, and again, this may, I don't even know if anybody wants to answer this, but, I mean, ultimately, who is making the decision at DHS? Is this a Mr. Lake's decision? Okay.
We sat in the meeting with him, and David Liggins.
David Liggins, the one I've been in meetings with, that has, kind of drawn the line as far as what I heard. And I'm sure he's cleared that with Director Lake.
Okay. Good to know.
I think that's based on what they have allocated or in the bucket to run that facility. I mean, when we closed down the children's shelter, before the Family Tree Project was considered, that was all going to be savings, that DHS was looking forward to being able to put back in our budget. And then as they started looking at Family Tree Project and the need for that and the want for that, and then it's like, well, we don't have the $1.5 million to renovate that building. But we've got enough that we can keep operating it like we have been. But not entirely, because the maintenance part of it, and that's what we have done for years, is we've done all the maintenance, treated it just like we would a building of our own, paid the utilities, paid the security, paid everything. That was since about 1987, I think. We paid rent for how many years, Jack? 15 years, and then we renegotiated at that point. We took over full responsibility for the building, quit paying rent.
Here's my proposal, for what it's worth, and I don't know, it could just absolutely not be worth anything at all, is to take another run at DHS, because again, I don't know how, DHS may be like, no, just build us a new building and we can spend our, 160 there. I like the proximity, I like the cooperation between the county and the state to do this. Obviously, it's worthwhile. My proposal is we mark up
redline the contract, say we're gonna have to take out hardship, we're going to have to provide some sort of percentage increase, take another run at DHS, and they say, well, we can live with those, or we can, or here's our counteroffer, and we take it from there, and we may be able to say, all right, this is not going to go anywhere, or we can say, all right, we can keep negotiating. Oh, I so move.
Hold on.
And I'm not trying to draw things out.
Randy, are you prepared, I mean, we can identify the hardship language today, that needs to come out. It appears that we all would agree that has to come out.
All right.
Is there some number, as an escalator, that you would like to see in here so that we can just formally send this back to them and they can say yes or no?
Just standard rate of inflation right now.
Or, where's our facilities guy?
2.1%. Let me ask you a question. I'm sorry, Liz.
Well, I'm just, you deal in property and property management.
Last year is 2.1%.
And
Is there a published rate that you can go look at for year to year to year?
Yes.
So, say this year it's that amount, what's the name of that?
It's the U.S. Department of Statistics.
Is that a maintenance inflation?
No, that's the Consumer Price Index is what we use here.
Consumer prices.
Also, there's the Producer Price Index, which takes out some components.
it's tied to the CPI. How do you guys want to word that?
That works.
Let Randy work on that for a second. I mean, we can go through this, Randy, if you want,
Oh, yeah, we
page by page, and
We have to do that now before we propose anything back to DHS, right? We have to
I think we should.
do it here in open meeting. Okay. So, all right, we're not numbered here, but on page 1, the new language in the last paragraph, beginning in the event the cap amount. Let me make sure that we're going to get rid of all. So, can we eliminate all new language? Do you concur?
Randy, I would suggest it be, starting with the sentence you mentioned, in the event the cap amount,
Right.
we would strike down through, where it says, the parties agree to work in good faith on any such amendment, that all of that come out. I think the new language remaining appears to be fine.
There shall be no rent paid, but less is responsible for utilization of security, maintenance repairs as a result of when they went to work, and shall include but not be limited to. Okay, so, yeah, do we want to take them one at a time? That's how I'm used to amending.
That's fine.
All right,
We can do that.
Okay, I move to amend the hardship language, starting with in the event and ending any such amendment.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
And then just inflation tied to CPI. You don't need a number,
Just tie it to the consumer price index? Per year, or are we going to
after year 5.
step it after year 5?
I mean, that's just my thought. You can do it.
I mean, well, I don't mind, I mean, I want to give DHS a break. I mean, I do, I don't want to, square with it, you know, get ourselves in a bind, but at the same time, I'm wanting to not necessarily tie the state to what the consumer price index is. After year 5, though, I'm just thinking.
Randy, doesn't this agreement have to be renewed annually? And can't those things be discussed annually?
No, we can't even,
And it What you're attempting to do here is equally distribute the risk to the donor that this effort continues, the risk that DHS.
We're not concerned with that at this point. The issue is we need a lease. We need a lease that's good for both parties.
For 25 years.
So, if I was listening to you guys correctly, it sounded like you were talking about years 1 through 5 of this lease would remain at a base 160. Beginning at the 6th year, the base amount would increase by the CPI each year going forward.
And again, that's a cap, that's not a required minimum amount that has to be spent.
Correct.
Yes, a cap would, the 160 would increase by 2.1%.
Second.
Matthew, you have that?
I've got the time, so I can just see it.
I know that. In any given 1-year lease.
Randy, I've kind of got something scribbled, and if you guys will allow me to, basically, so here's what we're looking at, so you guys all understand. Years 1 through 5 would remain static at 160. Beginning in year 6 going through year 25, that base amount would increase by 2.1% for the CPI. And then whatever that number is, turns out to be in year 6, say $170,000, and next year would be 2.1%. It would be an escalating cost as a cap to DHS. That would be my motion.
So it would stay at the 2.1 and not change with the...
No, it would be attached to the
It'd be attached to the CPI, but...
So it could be lower.
But the base amount, the base that it's figured off of would increase each year. As CPI goes up, that would increase each year. Are we good there?
So we'd say $160,000 in any given 1-year lease term for years
1 through 5.
1 through 5.
And then beginning in year 6, the lease would increase, the cap amount would increase by the cost of inflation, and it would build on going forward.
So council, can council draft?
I would look to you to help draft this, Randy. You just told me you were the police guy.
Right, no, I've got my deputy hat back on now. So,
Once all said and done, I'll be happy to look at it, and you negotiate it right now.
Are you going to put anything in there defining this 160,000, where it's coming from, how it's spent, or?
That's already in there.
It's already in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Mr. Budget is okay with that?
Mr. Budget.
I don't know that it's necessarily Mr. Budget that would be okay with that. I think it needs to be the board that would be okay with it, but I think we should probably expect to know where our money's going.
So maybe like documentation from DHS about where that first 160 goes?
That would be fantastic.
Maybe add that into the lease term?
we need to get an attorney under retainer who can make draft language for us.
Well, we have some very similar language, Randy, that she's referring to that is utilized in our lease with Oklahoma State for the extension building.
Okay.
So we can
Well, that's what I'm saying, can we,
pull that. I just don't
do we have to do it right now? Because
Yeah, you're lobbing it at them.
that's the thing, are we gonna do it right now, or?
You're just lobbing these terms at them to see how they respond.
All right.
If the committee will allow me, I will draft those, send them to council to review, and then if they meet with legalese, we can send them to DHS and they can see.
Okay.
What it would be was year 1 through 5, 160.
Sure.
The escalator on 6 through 25, plus language that DHS would provide the board information regarding how the cap amount, if they exceed the cap amount, how that was done.
I am all for that. I was under the impression that we had to nail down the language here and now. If you can do that, I'll go for it.
I mean, those are the terms, I mean.
Yeah,
just
happy
agree
to
upon the
empower
terms.
you to do that.
Yeah, you're just agreeing on terms, not specific language.
Yeah.
Great.
Is there anything else
And they're here to hear the terms.
in there, again, they're here, anything else in there that you guys are concerned with?
They mentioned elevators is always a scary one.
Indemnification from removed.
Spaces with
You're right.
that is what they,
Who currently maintains the elevator? Are we maintaining the elevators out there today, or is DHS as part of their current contract?
I believe DHS.
I would move that we take out, in the second blue section here, Lesser is responsible for maintaining the elevators. Wait, hold on. Yep, through the period in the word amount. Put it back like it is today.
Same.
All in favor?
Just strike totally?
Yeah, just.
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. The language is fine.
Let me start that. Probably ought to put some language with regard to liability in reference to the Tort Claims Act. And these parties responsible for their own respective torts, pursuant to the Tort Claims Act.
Good suggestion.
So under the liability section, we reference the tort claims.
Yeah, it's close, I see that, okay.
Okay. So I'll move council's recommendation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Anything else?
But Joe, could you clarify one point? I just want to make sure I understand this, because we're going to meet with our leadership tomorrow, and we'll probably discuss a lot of these points with them. On the elevator, if maintenance on that elevator falls within the cap that is established, then naturally, the DHS will be responsible for that. If maintenance on that elevator goes above and beyond that cap, DHS, is DHS responsible for all maintenance on the elevator exceeding the cap?
No. They took out the line that said they were solely responsible for it.
Correct.
Okay,
It just falls into maintenance just like the toilets now.
okay. I wanted to be clear.
In a way, we're taking some risk, right? I mean, we're lessening some, but we are taking some, recognizing that elevators are an expensive proposition.
We appreciate that.
Yeah.
They need to break down like toilets.
No.
No, they don't, do they?
Nothing further.
But the whole thing, again, needs to be a package. All the money, and $500,000.
Right.
Well, that's theirs.
So, we'll draft this. I don't know that I'll have it to you in time for you to meet, but you can generally outline what you're going to receive tomorrow. And then again, like Gretchen was mentioning, just like before the roof and the AC came into play, we would need, before the board could enact a lease, we would need both donor agreements with the county, and then the lease. So they would all three go at the same time. In the event DHS can agree to the language. Okay.
That meeting's at 2:00 tomorrow, is it? Just so you know.
I'll do my best. But you guys were all here, you know where we're headed.
We've got the general idea.
Right, I have nothing else to do. That's correct. Okay. So, under item 5, the transfer, there's no action that's needed there, correct?
Agreed.
Okay. Item 6 is what we just discussed, and we have taken all the necessary votes, I think, to finish item 6. Item 7 is a general item regarding the repurposing of the shelter. DHS, do you need anything under that? Or, I think we've probably covered everything in those other 2 items.
Nothing that I'm aware of.
Okay, so item 7, no action? Okay. All right, so I think that concludes the DHS portion. Is that, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Joe.
Welcome, see you later. All right. Do you have that? We just want to work file?
That's just a big thing.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
We gotta find out about mold first.
Okay, Mr. Warren is here. Which item is his,
Number 9?
Okay, so item 9, discussion, review, and possible action regarding potential property locations for new storage space for the court clerk and district attorney records.
Do not say the shelter.
I was gonna say, I make a motion to put Fort Myers on.
Yes, we had put together the list some meetings ago. We were working with the assessor. We got a pretty comprehensive list countywide now, and there's 16 on that list. What I've done since the last meeting is I've contacted a lot of these real estate professionals trying to get these prices the best I could get them. I guess there's a rule in real estate, if you ever put down a number first loses, and these are professionals, so they will not go there. So it's just a published price. And then they'll say that, but we'll negotiate. The sale price you see on 2 of them is there. The third one, all he'll say is negotiable. And then I've got some per square foot prices on if you lease it instead of buy it. And then there's 3 or 4 that's negotiable. So I'm kind of at a standstill on getting any further with this. My thought maybe is just to pick a location based on its merits, and then try to advance that one and get into serious negotiations on it, is one thought.
How are you gonna pay for it when you start negotiating?
So that's another problem, is where will the money come from, like any other project?
I'm just like, I would negotiate unless I had the money.
Hey,
What was that?
the assessed value of $1,000, can we just go ahead and purchase it for that?
It's because it's a brand new property, and they haven't even, I don't think they've made an assessment yet, because they just cut the ribbon on it, I think, right at the first of the year.
Mr. Warren, sir.
We're at the point we told you several months that we were gonna come to, about 7 months ago, we told you we'd get there. We have 800 boxes sitting in the basement, right, nowhere to take them. We're gonna take them over there for stuff in the aisles. But we're at the point now where lease, buy, get a smaller building, give us 5,000, 10,000 square feet, never, once a year you can go rent another 5,000 or 10,000. It makes sense though to do this in a way that is beneficial, because it costs to move records. So the beneficial way would be to find a building. If we go over there every day, we pull records every day. It makes sense, the closer the better. It makes sense to find a building that lasts us about 10 years at least. Maybe by then we do something where we're not creating. Like I told you, we currently create enough paper in 1 year that we put an antenna on it would be the tallest building in the world. At one time I said that it's one out here, but after checking closer, we'll put your skyscrapers to see if we don't beat them. So we're creating paper daily. We're out of room over there. 7 months ago I told you we were coming to it. We're there. We're out of room. I mean, I would suggest that I could put it in the aisleways, but every day we go over there, if we block the aisles, then it doesn't make any sense. We'll create labor. You can't get labor back. If we get the building and do it in the right way, then it gives us time sufficiently that we can focus on our problem with Supreme Court and possibly solve it. But then they say destroy and get rid of records. A lot of these records are historical, so who's going to make that decision which historical records we're going to destroy and get rid of? I mean, we can go there and pull files on some crime or something that happened, you know, with H.E. Bailey or somebody like that, and destroy those records. As far as scanning, we looked into scanning all those records. I've had 3 different sources give me prices on scanning. You're looking at between $25 and $35 million to scan all these records. And then we've asked, there's a couple of companies that said they take the records and pull them as we need them and scan them. But then we checked, and some of those companies have already done work for the county. It's been a big issue. They basically, Mr. Sullivan's office hired one of them, and they had a nightmare, and then when they tried to get their records back, it was a huge nightmare. So, that's where we're at. Now, the judges, as great as men as they are, for some reason, a lot of them still want the original records. Even though the scan record, or as all you young people see it, that's just as good. But some of the judges, we just recently had that 2 days ago, he wanted that old record. And we found it. Right now, if we, the building that I think fits, I went and looked at all with Keith. I didn't go with Keith, but we drove around and looked at every one of these buildings. As long as they don't leak and as long as they have some kind of fire system, they would probably work. The building down the street, I know nobody that they're asking, like Keith said, I'm a licensed realtor too, and I believe I'm a professional realtor. If you call me and you're not ready to make a deal, I'm just going to give you the list price. That's all I'm going to do. The building down the street, they're asking $4 million. I'd be afraid to offer them $2.7. I think they'd take it in a heartbeat. But we could also lease it, and then first right to refuse. That's the way to go. If we don't have the money right now to buy, it would make sense, being a realtor, being that I own properties, the way to do it would be go down there and just simply tell them that we're leasing a building currently, and we would like very interested in leasing their building because it's closer. We have in our budget $150,000. We might get that same building for the same price. You don't know until you try. But we're at a point now, we don't have no time. I was going to say, in fact, this is when I heard that they were going to lose some offices over here. Can I use them for storing records? That's how desperate I'm getting.
How many square feet do you currently have?
Currently, we have 37,000. That building down there is right at 100,000. It's a freight elevator, it's been tested already. Previous company that used it tested to see how the floors, the strength of the floors, to see if they could hold the records, as y'all all aware of. The paper is very heavy.
What, if we were to get that building that you believe would best suit your needs, in your estimation, what are we looking at in order to get the building usable?
I'm probably just as honest as I can be. The smartest thing we could do is go to buy new racks. I can get a price on those, but I'd say we're probably looking at, Keith might be wiser on that than I am, $75,000 to $100,000. We bought enough to need. We have to quit doing it the way we're doing it, because the way we're doing it currently was we have the shelves over there, these heavy commercial racks, and we set the boxes on top of each other. Once again, you can't get labor back, so then we crush the boxes. So now we've got to buy new boxes, take them out, redo it. We did it properly. The way we do the shelves is each shelf would be as high as that one box. So you slide the box in, you slide it out, you don't repeat labor. So to do the shelving right, we go buy the first amount of shelving we get, probably almost enough to do is what we have. I'd use that as, and I actually have measured all that. I've got all the measurements. We buy that much shelving, we have a company come in and put it all in for us, and then we start the move of records. Your labor intense there. I think it would take quite a bit of labor if we get it done. Then we take those shelves out and we put them in. But the building's big enough, we'd probably start out using the top floor. That way we grow into the bottom floor, and then down the road, if we need it for other things, we've got some extra space. That building, if we owned it, I could see where it benefited us. And this is just going off a little different way, but down the road, Oklahoma City asked them to shut that road off, fence it off. The sheriff could use part of that building. I think it'd be a great deal if you're gonna end up, maybe we get $200 million to build a new jail, maybe we don't, but if we don't, we have to move some people over and have a place for them to go, wouldn't that be nice? And at the same time, ask them to donate that parking lot they just bought back. I think you'd spend $300,000 to $500,000 setting it up. A lot of my clerks will have to be involved because a lot of the records over there have to be secured, make sure it's done properly.
These are records all the way back to 1889, correct?
That's correct.
So it's taken us that long to get to where we're at, you need 37,000
That's true.
square feet.
But if you go back to 2008 and look at the percentage that we're doing above a 2008, is what, 29% more?
We added 10,000 feet 4 years ago, and that's sold out.
And each year, we're creating more and more.
You can't do a linear
More
timeline right in 100 years and say 35,000
No,
feet.
absolutely. I mean, we produce more paperwork today, but we're also trying to fix that situation at the legislature.
Right.
Correct?
Correct.
So,
But that still
We have to take both-
doesn't get rid of the old records, because like, once again,
absolutely.
based on 10 cents a sheet or whatever it was, you're looking at $25 to $35 million. Scanning, it takes a long time for storage to raise $35 million.
And with the way the records preservation statutes are written, if we could, we got lots of smart lawyers around, if we could get some lawyers that want to help us figure those out and help us figure out which records we can get rid of without getting the court clerk's office in trouble.
I've recently requested, upstairs, I have boxes and boxes of the bonding records. I've asked them if we can donate those or stay around for that. Judges in the Supreme Court, we're still waiting on an answer.
That's funny.
I might just think if we could get some lawyers to help them figure out what records they could get rid of, they would do it, but the issue seems that direction would need to come from the state, since those are state records, they're not county records, right?
That's an argument.
Well, that's an age-old argument, and I'm not gonna take a side in it, but you've got lots of people that feel strongly that those are county records, and the state provides judges to hear those hearings, and you've got other people who are...
Right, I understand the historical...
Right, but there's two sides to that.
Correct, I understand.
And I don't...
And once you start that, it's gonna get pushed down the road. We're gonna be years arguing those arguments, and meanwhile, always, we continue to create more records.
Correct.
We've gone to the Supreme Court and talked to them about better ways of doing things.
Right, from a practical matter though, I mean, and I'll say it because I work for the county, there's not a lot of incentive for the state to do something to address their problem because the county takes care of it.
That's exactly right.
So, but that doesn't diminish your need, and I do believe, I went over and I toured it, and I told Mike at the time, I think there's a need and we need to figure out what to do. The issue is we don't have any control over the money. I do think talking about the lease perspective would be potentially a viable option. When our lease is up June 30 with the current...
Being that I work for the county and I have your interest at heart, if I was the landlord of that building and I leased you that building on a 1-year lease and you spent $500,000 getting your records over there, you have first right of refusal, that happens pretty quick, I want to get rid of that building. And then the price would not come down. Then I would fix it once you've spent the money.
Right.
Once, we're past the kissing stage, I got you.
There is risk.
We'd have to put escalator clause in there.
We'd have first right of refusal, and that guy that owns it is very smart. He's a sharp guy.
Well, I think there is a statute that provides that the county can lease to own a building. It has I think a cap on the interest rate. The tricky part, if you're lease to own, is that the county in this contract would have to have language that the ensuing year is contingent on the county having adequate funds, not for the remainder or for the whole term of the lease, but the ensuing lease term. And that the contract would allow the county an out if it didn't have the funds to pay for the ensuing rental year. And then at the end of that term, if the county has made all those payments, then the county would acquire ownership of that property. Of course, if the county in say it's a 10-year lease, in year 4, miraculously finds a way to send all these documents to the cloud, no longer has a need for it, you've lost the 4 years, but arguably it's just rental rate. But I recall there was a statute like that, rather than your right of first refusal.
Going right with first refusal, that would be the smart thing to do, is just have it where we're actually buying, some of that rent could go for purchase.
Now, that statute, I think, has a pretty high interest rate, so once your owner sees it, it's a point of negotiation.
I don't know if we want to show our whole card. I think we
No.
negotiate without even knowing our whole card.
But that's how it protects the county from having to pay the full, say, $4 million. I guess you say it's a 10-year lease, so you have $400,000 a year of interest. And I can't remember, I think the statute also sets out whether it's simple or complex.
Once again, I think we could probably purchase the building or get a purchase lease for under $3 million. We know that before.
Is this a picture of it? That's the building?
That's the building. Right, look at right across the street from the sheriff's office, and on the right-hand side of it, on the east side of it, there was a parking lot building, which I understand is sold, and then the city bought it back. The parking lot, that's my understanding, so. Talked up on the city about it. Doing some things that would be positive for us and the city.
Negotiable.
Yes.
Get there.
Well, unfortunately, we can't.
Yeah. I guess that'd be the only place you could be dealing with is PPA funds, we can't do anything about that. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, would you be willing to take our operational costs over $160,000?
Yeah.
Mr. Sullivan, shut up.
Mike, I think he's thinking outside the box. Y'all want to beat him up later, I gotta protect him, I need to.
What,
Butch had a way of doing it, he was telling us he had a way, but that's been 7 months ago, so. Purchasing it, and that was at $4 million, once again, I think we can do that. Butch would much rather him get the interest.
I can only imagine. Would the committee recommend that we try to get on the PBA agenda and see if there's any interest from the PBA? I mean,
we can't make anything, we can't, use your own judgment regarding that.
okay.
We can't, we don't have any ability to make any recommendations or anything to do with the PDA.
Pretty appropriate.
They want, they want a cap too. Okay. I mean, I think what we could do, or I'm inclined to do, is tell the board that we've looked at this way, every which way from Sunday, and at least I agree that they need space. However, we're kind of handcuffed, because we don't have the ability for funding.
Right. I don't think there's,
How did we do it in 2010 when they got the building?
none of this stuff existed.
The space y'all are currently leasing?
How did they get approval to lease the space?
I would think he went out and did it and showed it up to the board and said, hey, we have this lease, and the board said, we like it, and I would guess, but.
I think records were gonna be in the alley. We've just passed a bond issue, taxpaying public just passed a bond issue to address the infrastructure in the courthouse and did not pass the measure providing for the records.
They were both on that same ballot.
They were on that same ballot.
So what you're saying is once our records have to be stored in the alley, then we move?
Well, I don't know. All I know is they had to be relocated from the 4th floor.
You know, that was the thing, we had to clear the
space out.
It was where you could see it, see,
Out of
that's
sight,
the
out of
difference. It was out of sight, out of mind, it's not out of sight, that was
Well,
building.
I think the difference here, though, is on that, we're talking about $100,000 or whatever that the board could try to find money to lease. This here, the board doesn't have access to $3 million or $4 million, so they would have to engage either the budget board for reserve funds or PDA funds.
Killer part.
And they can't, this group can't get on the PDA.
It needs to be pointed out, though, that with the area growing in popularity where this current warehouse is located, the rental rates are going to begin to escalate, my guess is exponentially.
My building currently is drawing $10 a square foot right here at Manning Plaza. I guarantee the building's down, and once they start putting stores and houses, they're gonna build class, and I've seen the drawing. And all that rent down there won't be long. I think he'll probably go up on us this next time. Did he say he'd one more time?
No, I thought so, but I was reminded that maybe he didn't say that he'd keep it level this year.
It's not level, it escalates again, and I don't know that we
Budgeted for it.
No, I'm not saying that. I don't think we'll not see any escalation from here out on
I
out.
can see that building going up. That's even at, what, $10 a square foot, if it goes to that, say, the next 2 years, it's current $70,000.
No, it's in order for it to make it work.
Well, we're not talking about bonds, we're talking about.
And then if we move the records, say, far into the county somewhere at one of the airports, then we risk the, driving there back and forth every day, as far as the time and the expense, and also the danger of getting on the highways constantly. That building doesn't make sense, and I promise you that building won't last long. Once they do start the housing, moving down, tearing down that building, they start building in the next 12, 24 months, then you'll see, that building, somebody will want it for a storage building, which would be a perfect building for people to rent.
$1.9 million a year is our budget for all So that doesn't accomplish anything then.
No. Yeah. Sort of, I mean, just some type of update to the board that, yes, they need space. What we do. Trying to find a way forward, but within what we're allowed to do.
That's the extent of what we can do, correct?
Mr. Attorney, what says you, eh?
Deputy hat.
You're no good. Thank you.
Wise man, huh? We can put a Band-Aid on it and find a building that's smaller and rent it. You have 2 locations there. We'll still have to buy the racks, we'll still have to do all the things we're doing. And if we have to go at least 10,000, I've probably got 8,000 worth of records on the floor, and I need to put on the shelf.
Well, we have one.
You guys might have some room on the ninth floor, just looking at this plan.
If you want to take that from, their office.
Okay, go.
38 of them. Plus it doesn't keep the structural, because we already looked at that. I think we looked at that when you were here.
All right, here's what I'm willing to do. We're kind of like, it's kind of like the DHS thing all over again. We're gonna sit here and be dealing with this forever. Let's punt to a higher level. Okay, so my motion would be that we make a recommendation to the board that they enter into negotiation for the purchase of a property or properties,
And a release.
and/or lease for, storage space for the court clerk and DA. And I'm amenable to, if you all have any ones on here you specifically would like to recommend to the board doing that. Otherwise, it's kind of an any and all on this list. And that, of course, once we make that recommendation to the board, then it's up to them with regard to the funding, whether that would be EBA, the budget board, et cetera.
Question.
Yes, sir?
And again, I'm just
Is this your lawyer or deputy head?
deputy.
Okay.
The question that I have is, with relation to the storage of DA records, is that on us as a county to provide for that? I know that we have to store court records. That's on us. And of course, we provide space to the DA and the courts and things like that, but storage of records, is that something that the county pays for, or does the state pay for that? By statute?
My understanding is the state pays for that, but it would be more than just records. Evidentiary, that kind of stuff. If we did the security, they do the impounding of cars, so on and so forth. And currently the DA pays for some storage on site to have that done. So the thought, and this is just Miles' thought, is if we can put them both in the same place, we could offset our costs with what we could churn that rent money. Does that make sense?
So they're gonna,
So we could take state money instead of the state always taking those.
we say the DA is gonna share in the costs as well.
Those discussions, I believe, have been had. Mr. Warren could probably speak more to that.
I actually haven't had that discussion.
The DA currently has records in.
They have records.
The records you're talking about, that's that whole commit thing, that's a whole separate
Right,
facility.
that's what I,
Right.
yeah, there's two kinds of storage with the DA.
Do they have to be
Asset
separate?
forfeiture and
Yeah.
then records, and you've mushed the two.
Yeah.
Which I think with regard to Mr. Warren's request, it's just records,
Exactly.
not asset forfeiture.
Right, so my thought was,
And that we don't, I don't think pay any.
you don't pay any rent?
No. You got that place up on Lincoln. I've been there.
It's probably
You get that
best
for free?
not to store cars with paper given various.
I don't think there's a request to do that.
No, it was just spitballing. It
Well,
was
you're
my thought.
spitting the wrong ball.
No. On that, we'll just come to put it on the county taxpayer back. Okay, good deal. No trading of it.
So I guess that's
That's out the window.
just kind of, well, it expands on my question. So what are we talking about? I understand court records. I understand.
And that's what Mr. Prater has stored, and the DA's office has stored is over there, it's mostly court records.
But it's their
It's their
file,
They have access to their file.
their case file, not the official
Right.
Court file.
court files.
Right.
It's my understanding, I mean, we haven't,
We don't go through their files.
Right. I got it. It's, I mean, if we think of the DA's office as a law firm, it's their case file, their attorney's notes and research and things like that, they would put in there along with, I don't know, they might keep the draft of the briefs there, right?
It's probably about 8,000 to 10,000 square feet. Over 37,000 square feet, how much it is. I'm guessing back to counting ceiling tile in my head. On that one side.
And they pay nothing? Is that right?
Yeah.
I think it's included in the same statute in Wales as providing for office space for us. It's required by statute.
And it may be, I don't know, I
Okay.
was asking the question, but I don't know.
Okay. So here's what my motion will be. It would be that this board recommend to the Board of County Commissioners that they explore the purchase, lease purchase, and/or lease of the property located at 853 Robert S. Kerr, and additionally, that they be able to look at any other property that they might choose. So in essence, it would be the 853 property is our primary recommendation. However, the board, as they would have anyway, would have the option to look at any other properties included on this list. And that obviously we can't tell them where the funds would come from, but that we've at least made a statement that we believe that it's important to address this records situation. So,
Is that your motion?
that is my motion.
Second?
There is a second? Okay, motion is second, all in favor? Aye. Okay. We're off high center sorted, right?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you,
Everybody, thank you.
members of the committee.
Mr. Sullivan, you're not welcome here anymore. What?
That's an open.
Oh, man.
For the Good series.
Okay. Hi, Commissioner. Are you here to speak? Do we need to get you out of the room? Okay, all right. Let's do item 4, if we could, please. And that is, discussion, review, and possible action related to the TIF 2 project. The first one, the annex roof replacement. Anything?
Nothing new from me.
Okay, item B is the annex elevator situation. Keith, anything there? No. Item C is the front entrance and security situation for this building. Anything there?
Nothing new.
Okay, D is exterior maintenance and lighting. We've done the lighting portion of that. Is there anything new on maintenance?
Just waiting for the lights to arrive so we can begin installation.
Okay, item E is the 9th floor demolition and the elevator. Anything there?
The 9th floor demolition is underway. The asbestos crew has been in there for about the last month.
Now, 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
The contractor's actually been in there 2 nights, so it's off to a slow start, but it is started.
It'll go fairly quickly, and we'll need to move on the elevator upgrades, openings, and so forth to accommodate the 9th floor. We'll have to move on that fairly quickly.
And funding-wise, where are we with regard to being able to take that on?
I believe so.
Yeah, there was a transfer.
About 868,000 in the TIF account.
Okay. All right. So that takes care of E. Item F is the 9th floor repurpose of the courthouse.
And I think you've got an item specifically on here in a little bit. Let's wait for that.
Okay, so item G, the jail lower roof.
We have a pre-work meeting with the contractor April 27th at 11 o'clock. If anyone wants to attend.
Item H, jail fire notification. Anything new there?
We're about done with the pieces that still had to be put in, but we're still waiting on the contractor, Suplex Grinnell, to finish up some. We received an extension from the Department of Labor until May 3rd, I believe it is, on that violation, and we're gonna have to request another extension again. They only gave us 30 days this time. So we will have to request another extension.
And that,
It's operational, but it's yellow tagged.
and so that extension, Dan, would, if we were able to get another extension, we wouldn't be on manual fire watch.
We are not on fire watch, it is operational, but we are not green tagged.
Right, so the extension, if we don't get another extension, do we have to go back on manual fire watch?
Not that I'm aware of,
Okay.
because it's operational.
Okay, all right.
But DOL is got it as a violation, and we have to keep up to date with them
Okay.
on that.
All right. Anything else? So on item 4, how about a motion to receive the update? Okay.
Thanks.
All in favor? Aye. Item 8, an item related to the remediation of the mold at the Oklahoma County Jail. Is there anything new here?
Yeah, we have a plan review meeting. It will be at the jail for the HVAC design plans, to go over those plans, redline them. It's May 1st.
Okay.
We've also received notice from the DOL that it's been reported by an employee, so they have sent us a violation notice. Pass these around to you and the committee and the clerk. I have to respond to Department of Labor by this Friday, that we have acknowledged this, that we have a plan, and provide supporting documentation of our plan. And we have to post this letter from DOL at the jail for a period of no less than 10 days. One of the things that they do say in here is that employees are alleged to be sick from potential exposure to pigeon fecal matter whose sources is reported to be the air intakes on the outside of the facility.
Is that on the roof? Is that on the roof?
I don't know, Keith, maybe.
Those are the fresh air intakes that are louvered on the exterior of the building. There may be some on the roof as well. The air conditioning systems have to provide for so much fresh air in the facility, and these ducts and louvers are places where pigeons might like to be.
It's really something that should be done in routine maintenance, occasionally to spring clean those, and I don't know that that's being done, because we don't do our own maintenance down there.
Squab could be put on the menu.
We've received one court comp claim on this, the claimant has filed with an attorney, so Form 3 has been filed. Interestingly, it's the same language as we have on this, so, we just continue to work through it. I don't know anything else other than what we're currently continuing to do.
And Dan, when did you say responses due?
By this Friday.
Is this on for the board? Your response on to be signed by the board?
I normally respond to those. If you want the board to, I will have to put it on for the board meeting for Wednesday. We can work on that.
We have time.
We have time to get it on the agenda still. I have not started writing a response. I will need assistance with that technically.
I can't ask for break, can I? But
Address the can. I wouldn't propose the board.
okay.
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Basically, since what Gretchen's saying is, it came to your attention as the health and safety office, something that you've normally done through the scope, so thanks.
Continue to do that.
Okay. So is there a motion to receive, or do we need to receive it? Okay. Motion to receive. Second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Okay, is there any other action on item 8? Okay. Item 10. Item 10 is the 9th floor of the county courthouse, the plan implementation. Steve, Miles?
It's just the floor plan of the office. The eastern half will go to the district attorney's office for special victims But the other thought is for the other space on the northwest corner is maybe moving harder in there, bringing up space for ICB and more revenue to be produced. Anything, Keith?
I just want somebody to approve this plan so I can begin constructing estimates and engaging contractors.
May I ask a question about the plan? Okay, I'm looking at, on the southwest corner, the corner office, and there's a door opening to another room.
Correct.
What is that?
It's a cell. Currently. It'll just be storage.
Oh, okay.
Since the storage seems to get a premium around there.
Yeah, okay. I was hoping it was gonna be like a theater room or something like that.
Yes, sir, just like that one.
If it doesn't have a window, it'd be perfect. Looks like it does. Okay.
So the offices and the area that is drawn to detail, what area is that? District 2. Okay, and then the other possible uses are these open areas.
Yeah, the thought is, whomever, my thought was to move Marla and her group there, but discussions with Mr. Prater were.
Yeah, so we would be looking at some additional costs for.
Right, and if he
Okay.
needed that, then he could, whatever. But he liked moving a bunch of his people into the courthouse so they could just go.
Up and down.
Yeah.
Okay.
This will be, this elevator that accesses 9 and 10, or 10 and 11, will be closed off to the same for that.
No, that's the current.
Are those in the paint restaurant?
On the spiral staircase. So this is the current, that's how they move prisoners between the floors.
The ones that are inside the office space.
I believe they're in close proximity if they're not exact. The other that is shown to the east, that is
Oh, the bathroom.
So Keith, you said you wanted somebody to approve this before you could start getting estimates. Why wouldn't we get estimates before we would make a recommendation to the board to build it out?
Well, because things could change. If this is, and they do, if this is the plan, then I can have contractors give me pricing on building this. If I have contractors give me this layout and they price that, we'll move forward without any kinds of unusual hurdles.
Similar to space utilization that we used here in this building.
Yes.
Changed 100 times.
Where in the pecking order, all the projects in this building, as well as that ninth floor, would it fall?
The ball's in the air along with Lincoln and that event center, first floor, jury assembly room, the sixth floor HVAC work, and the mechanical work going on the first floor currently.
So, my point is that if you go out, if this ninth floor over there being chopped out to somebody else, it's not going to be done in-house.
No. We will have, like in other projects, we'll have oversight, and certainly our AB crew, electricians, and mechanicals will work with contractors. That has to happen.
And there's money for it?
Yeah, the TIP
appropriate.
Gotcha.
The two that were advanced by the board was the lighting and the ninth floor of the TIP projects as we're kind of move forward.
I just needed to catch up.
Motion to accept?
Do we accept and recommend?
No, do we need a recommendation?
It's the way we've done it.
Okay.
Space utilization, so recommend the board the approval of.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Item 11, staying in space, deals with a possible recommendation to the board regarding space for the newly created BOCC Benefits Department. I asked that this one be put on, but what's the situation?
Well, the spaces that are available and vacant are on the west end of the first floor. The spaces that we have tried to secure through this whole process are on the east end of the second floor. You've got some abstractors that aren't county employees occupying some space. I've always thought they should be somewhere else in the building. That's pretty high office space to be basically giving away. And that's 2 spots that are readily available.
And the second floor space is next to
HR.
Even though those are separate departments now, would we envision that there would be a common opening, for instance, close off that hallway entering that space where the abstractors are, and there would be a common entrance?
Gretchen, is there any statute or anything that says that we have to provide space for the abstractors?
Very easy to use.
And I don't think it's any specific space.
Okay. I mean, it's just a spot for them to come and,
Do their research.
right, not office space. per
No,
se.
it's research space,
Okay.
as far as I can recall, asking me to
No.
draw down on
Nope.
a lot of bits and bytes in the brain, but,
So we have
you
space
can sit on them.
I think the history was
Here we go, spitball.
in previous eras that the abstractors were to ultimately be located into the corner office of the first floor, the northwest corner.
Well, it's access to the records they're researching,
Yeah.
so it's proximity.
That made sense for where they were.
So
Because I don't think the clerk
when
wanted
the
them to
witness
be dragged
center-
around the building.
when the witness center goes to 9, that space will be available to them.
And we currently have space on one that they could move down there and be across from the records.
That's true.
That's true. In some early space utilization drawings, we had most of the space east of the elevators set aside for the BOCC. I brought a drawing to this meeting about a month ago. And then we didn't end up getting as much space as I thought the BOCC should have. So this is kind of the second shot.
Did you bring your drawing?
Did not bring it, but I can go get it.
What's the right of way? Second floor. That appears to be the current structure. So that's what
So what we're asking for is this chunk,
And then
where the
the-
abstractors, and then,
Yeah, that was the drawing.
and then currently where county clerk IT is.
Yes.
Seriously proposing these. And with all the empty space that he's got down here, how many people are in this?
Two.
Mr. Grell's on break.
Very good.
Maybe we need it. Existing but non-existing department.
What is it? Dan, you know timetable for the park space should be ready?
Probably somewhere before July 1.
So we'll have to build out space for at least these individuals on first. But for IT with doing the Munis training, is that all wrapped up now, or?
No.
I saw they were moving the computers out the other day.
Oh, really? I think they were moving that training area up to their server location on 3. So that's
Hypothetically, the space is already built out.
It's rough, yeah, but the carpet, ceiling, the walls,
I've seen what they're in currently, it's a whole lot nicer than what they're in now.
sure, and bigger.
So the potential for moving them down immediately exists.
Sure.
Sure.
You proposed take this for the new department, and this.
Sure.
So a motion to make a
But-
recommendation to the board?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
But on one, we're only talking about just that computer lab, right? Is that what you were?
Yeah, that's what I was suggesting.
And I mean, that's the only thing
That it's only area that's built out.
right. But this space is built out, correct?
Right, I'm talking about for the transfer of the
Space is built out on 2, but some modifications would be required for door openings, door closures, that kind of thing.
Second.
Okay, so the motion that we recommend to the board that we move the abstractors from their current location on the 2nd floor to the, what formerly was the MIS training room in the southwest corner of the first floor, and that we also,
I need to check with the county clerk before we start moving the abstractors in case they're taking their records around.
They just be downstairs.
I don't know how the county clerk's going to feel about that.
Yeah, it is.
Seriously, those are these are historical records, these are deeds.
But
are you not moving any deeds?
I think it's digital
it's
copies.
just the abstractors.
I know, but don't they take the copies from the clerk's office and go take them to their office space
Sometimes.
and review them? Yeah, so it was always right off where all the big books were on the 2nd floor.
All the big books are on the first floor.
Okay, so how far away are you taking the abstract?
We're actually putting them in closer proximity.
Okay, I'll put complaining.
We're recommending.
And again, there's 10,000 square feet of space at the end of this hall. You could put abstractors.
Exactly.
Potentially 4.
Or files.
Or 10.
So we've got more
It's like 8 guys.
That's what we do, the LCC buildings, we can make recommendations to them for spatial.
And then the board can discuss, have the final discussions. Yes, so the motion would be, again, to recommend to the board that we relocate the abstractors from their current location on the 2nd floor to the location previously used by MIS in the southwest corner of the first floor across from the deeds. And we also relocate the MIS contingent from the county clerk's office to existing office space within the county clerk's existing footprint in order to create space for the newly created VOCC benefits department. And that would be a recommendation, and the board would do all of those discussions.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. These meetings are too long.
Yes.
Way to go, Mr. Joe.
Item 12 is discussion and due possible action regarding the status and potential removal of the antiquated emergency management public address system. Mr. Barnes.
Thank you for your patience.
Not a problem, I just have been very enjoyable morning. And this is so comparatively simple, I love it. Basically, you are likely aware of the public address system. I think it was probably installed, Keith, you may know better, in this building when this building was built. It has extremely limited capacity to transmit voice messages by hardwire to just a few remote spots around the building, more gaps than there is coverage. It has historically been used for emergency messaging in this building, which in my 10 years and being here over 10 years, every time it's been utilized, it creates a flurry of complaints about unable to hear, garbled messages, no speaker in our area, all those kinds of things. And the word antiquated, I think, is an understatement. This is old technology, and at best, this thing may work, may not work. It's really, to be honest with you, a piece of junk. My recommendation is that if we ever get back on track in remodeling my office area, that it be taken off the wall. It's a big, giant, honking black box that's about 20 inches thick. And to be honest with you, perfectly honest, and up front, it serves no real purpose other than to cause unrealistic expectations of people of getting some kind of message there. There are other alternatives that are currently in place in the facility that would also include courthouse's system that I'm proposing to remove. It does not go to the courthouse, it's just
Noted.
spots. That's right. That's right.
In fact, there is a separate box over in the courthouse security office. First floor, the
there are several other methods to get messages out to people that are much more effective, or at least last century technology. This, in my opinion, is bad. It creates issues.
If there aren't any questions, I would move to recommend removal.
Sorry. I would prefer that we not do that until we know what we're gonna replace it with. So if David could come back next week with her next meeting, whenever that might be. 'Cause I agree, it doesn't work. It gotta go, but.
That makes sense.
If I may, I don't want to do anything to hold up the ongoing progress of remodeling my space. If we could treat the replacement as a separate issue, I'd be more than happy to do a little research on that. I think there are some good technology applications now that could be very viable. We've already got a certain percentage of the facility is on voice over IP phones. There's messaging available there. We've got the ReadyOp system that we can send messages, multiple means. And then Dan loves to go up and down the halls with his bullhorns.
We have bullhorns.
There's already multiple methods in place.
Oh, I know it's bullhorn. I'm an advocate for bullhorn, but you know that Fred will catch if there's a tornado coming towards downtown and.
Of course, this one doesn't apparently work.
I understand, it's one of those situations, but you guys took out the PA system.
Well, with all due respect, that PA system adds to the problem.
Doesn't it create more of a liability issue?
I know.
We have one that doesn't work. So if we send out an alert over our PA system and two people hear it.
We've had much more success with ReadyOp and sending out text messages.
Okay, go ahead, Randy.
Oh, I've made my motion.
I'll second
And I
Randy's
refuse to
motion.
strike it.
There we go, I second. I saw the error in my ways. Heaven forbid. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Miles, item 13 is discussion of possible action regarding the crosswalk on Kerr on the north side of this building.
Oklahoma City has recently, we suggested to the board, when the board did a resolution a while back asking Oklahoma City to examine. Oklahoma City has thus come back and said that they're not going to do anything because the committee, citizens feel it's not necessary and so on and so forth.
When we had the Project 180 contractor out here, I had asked.
Who was that?
I don't remember who. I don't know why. But I'd asked them to consider upgrades to that crosswalk above and beyond the manual uniform traffic control devices. They verbally declined, so I actually reduced it to writing. They put me through the Traffic Commission, which is a citizens committee of the city. They agreed that the crosswalk should be there, so they put the crosswalk in, but just at the what was in the manual, nothing above and beyond. So what we came back with was a Board of County Commissioners resolution in May of 16, where the commissioners formally asked the city to consider something above and beyond, which would be, in street lighting, be more like a school zone situation. And the city did not take any action on our resolution. That is the city's streets, sidewalk, things of that nature.
And that was recent improvement, correct?
And I think there was a court case here about a month or two ago. I had to get involved in that with an affidavit, but we were let out on summary judgment because the county is not, in that case, liable for anything out there. It's the city. So that's pretty strong evidence, and then we've got this resolution in place, so I don't think it's an issue of liability. But every day, people see near misses there because you've got pedestrians in conflict with traffic. And we continue to get hammered with do something more, do something more. One of the traffic commission's issues, why they didn't do more, is we do have the tunnel underneath the crosswalk. People do not have to go in the crosswalk. They can be totally removed by grade separation if they use the tunnel system. People typically will not, because the crosswalk is the most direct route to their car or to the ticket that they have to pay. Even people that work here that know that tunnel's there do not have the tunnel, so they're going across there at their own risk. But I don't know whether you want to leave this as is, or whether you want to start the process over, go back in front of the traffic commission, try to take a second run at it.
I think the biggest issue was liability, and since that's been tested.
Well, what happened was, there was somebody who fell on the sidewalk part. And that off the street where the trees are. They sued the county and the city. Stacy prepared an affidavit with some exhibits establishing the city's right of way, and the plaintiff caved. It wasn't ruled on by the court. So, but, I'm not going through all that again to establish that. It should be filed, not ours. It looks like it could be, from a pedestrian standpoint, but it's not. So, I rarely walk across that thing because I go underneath, but I noticed when I did do it last week, I don't know why, but those drivers just pretend that they don't see you. So, with the pedestrian, sorry, you still have to look left and right yourself. It's not just because it's got the nice zigzag and the little signs means, gee, I get to go whenever I want, because I hate to say it, but the people down here are usually pretty grumpy. They're coming to go to court or jury duty or work. And they we had a secretary in our office who was hit. And the woman who hit her was flying down the street, ironically, to city court to pay a traffic ticket. Yeah, and she had no insurance, just classic.
If the issue is liability and the city doesn't want to do anything to help us protect the citizens that come into this building, then I think we should consider asking them to close that crosswalk. Then it's that would eliminate any clear thinking that it might be somehow the county's responsibility for that, maintaining that crosswalk. We have stoplights at either end, and it's a matter of walking a little bit.
Yeah, we fought real hard to get that crosswalk, just FYI.
I understand that if the city is fighting real hard to get something that the city doesn't want to help properly maintain and make sure is safe,
Well,
it doesn't make a lot of sense to keep, right?
It does meet the manual.
Right.
Traffic control device. So it is proper, but you can always go above and beyond. Another point they had was going to the intersections where pedestrians use the cross. It's a lot longer walk, because we do have the island. so the pedestrian goes from the sidewalk to the island, island to the sidewalk, it's short walks. So it should be safer, I don't.
Better than what it was.
I understand, but. All right, so no action?
Motion to, yeah, no action.
Nay.
Okay, okay. New business, any new business in this extraordinarily long meeting? Citizens participation, Commissioner Vaughn, would you like to say hi?
May the record reflect that I've been here for 4 hours.
Anyone else? Okay, 516 board comments, Randy?
Nothing for me.
Miles?
None.
No. Item 17, adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Nay.
Thank you, Greg.